The Eternal Veil. Prologue. The Shattered Sky. The night the veil descended on Elindra was etched into memory, a cataclysm that reshaped the world. Farmers in golden fields dropped their tools as the sun was swallowed whole, children ran screaming as the sky blackened, and animals fled into the forests, their instincts sharper than human understanding. Priests of Solara gathered in desperation, lighting every temple in the kingdom with blessed fires, but the flames flickered and died. From the veil came the shadows, twisted forms of darkness that clawed through towns, their wails like the cries of the damned. The veil promised power to the weak and desperate. Kings and queens turned to forbidden magic, abandoning their people for their own survival. Elindra became a fractured kingdom of refugees and ruins, the light of unity extinguished. Yet in the heart of this darkness, whispers of the heart of Solara spread. It was said to be a fragment of Solara's own essence, an artifact that could pierce the veil and restore balance. But even the bravest believed it, a tale meant to soothe frightened children. Ashen Grey, Torran Erendil, and Lyra were not heroes when the story began. They were strangers, each carrying their own burdens and secrets. Yet they were bound by something greater, a world desperate for hope. Chapter 1. Ashen's Guilt. Ashen Grey had lived in shadows long before the veil descended. As an assassin, she had moved unseen through Elindra's cities, her blades whispered names of her targets. But her skill, once a point of pride, had failed her when it mattered most. Her younger sister, Saria, had been taken by the shadows, not killed, taken. Ashen had been too far away, too slow to reach her. She relived that moment every night. Saria's terrified scream, the cold void where she had been. Now Ashen wandered Elindra, hunting the creatures in a futile effort to atone. She had killed more shadows than she could count, but their numbers never seemed to dwindle. The veil was infinite, and Ashen's vengeance was small against its vastness. The night she met Torran Erendil, she had been surrounded by shadows in a ruined village. She fought with the desperation of a caged animal, her movements precise yet reckless. Then came the light. A man in tarnished armor, wielding a sword that glowed faintly, charged into the fray. His strikes were heavy, decisive, and the shadows recoiled from him. "You fight like someone who doesn't care if they live," he said after the battle. Ashen sneered, "And you fight like someone who doesn't know why they're alive." Despite her bitterness, she allowed him to follow her. The shadows were growing stronger, and even Ashen knew she couldn't face them alone. Chapter 2. Lyra's Vision. Lyra was the last scholar of the Luminarum, a once prestigious order dedicated to studying Elindra's history and myths. When the veil descended, the other scholars had abandoned their work, seeking refuge or succumbing to despair. Lyra had stayed, convinced that knowledge held the key to salvation. For weeks, she had been plagued by dreams. In them, she stood before a radiant heart, encased in darkness, its light both beautiful and terrifying. Voices whispered her name, urging her to follow. Each time she awoke, a new fragment of understanding lingered. Visions of an assassin, a paladin, and a fortress shrouded in shadow. Her colleagues had dismissed her dreams as the ravings of an overworked mind. But Lyra trusted the visions. When she finally set out, she carried nothing but a satchel of books and her unwavering belief that the heart of Solara was real. The journey to find Ashen Grey was treacherous, but Lyra's determination carried her through. When she found the assassin, Lyra's hope was met with cold skepticism. "You're the assassin?" she asked, trying to sound braver than she felt. Ashen's sharp eyes narrowed. "And you're the scholar? Let me guess, books told you how to fight shadows?" "I don't fight," Lyra snapped. "I think, and I'm here because you need me." Torran chuckled. "Looks like we all need each other." Chapter 3. A Fragile Alliance. The trio's journey to the Ebonspire was tense. Ashen distrusted Lyra's naivety and resented her constant questions. Lyra, in turn, was frustrated by Ashen's coldness and Torran's silence. Torran, caught between them, found himself acting as a reluctant peacemaker. "I didn't sign up to babysit," Ashen muttered one night as they camped near the edge of a ruined forest. "And I didn't sign up to follow someone who can't see past their own guilt," Lyra shot back. Torran sighed. "Enough. If we're going to survive, we work together." That's the only way. Despite their bickering, each of them began to appreciate the other's strengths. Ashen's skills kept them alive in ambushes, Lyra's knowledge unraveled ancient mysteries, and Torran's unwavering presence held them together. Chapter 4. The Shadow's Lair. The ebon spire loomed against the veiled sky, its jagged towers piercing the darkness. The fortress was a remnant of a forgotten age, its halls filled with the whispers of the veil. Inside, the trio faced the umbral beasts, twisted monstrosities born of the veil's energy. Ashen and Torran fought side by side, their movements synchronizing as they adapted to each other's styles. In the fortress's heart, Lyra uncovered an ancient mural depicting the heart of Solara. The glyphs told of a place where night meets eternal dawn, a riddle that pointed to the Valley of Nightfall. The spire tested their resolve, but it also solidified their alliance. By the time they left, they were no longer just three individuals. They were a team. Chapter 5. The Valley of Nightfall. The Valley of Nightfall was a desolate, haunting place. The air was thick, not with mist, but with shadow, clinging to their skin like cold silk. The trio trudged through the uneven terrain, each step dragging them deeper into the heart of the Vale. Here the shadows were no longer mindless predators. They were intelligent. Whispers flitted through the air, brushing against the trio's ears like ghostly caresses. "Paladin," the shadows hissed, circling Torran, "do you remember the lives you failed to save? Do you remember the cries for help?" Torran tightened his grip on his sword. He could see their faces, his comrades who had fallen during his greatest failure. The shadows twisted their faces into grotesque versions, leering at him. "I can't fail again," Torran muttered under his breath. Ashen, walking ahead, turned sharply. "You're not failing anyone, not this time. Keep moving." The shadows then turned their attention to Lyra. "Dreamer," they whispered, "what do you think lies at the end of your visions? Truth or death?" "I'm not afraid of the truth," Lyra said, her voice trembling but defiant. "Good," Ashen said, stepping between Lyra and the encroaching darkness. "Because if you falter, we're done." The valley's center was dominated by a towering structure of black crystal. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. Inside, encased in translucent stone, was the heart of Solara. Its golden light flickered, weak yet unbroken. As the trio approached, the shadows retreated, their forms coalescing into a singular entity, the Veilkeeper. The creature was a monstrous amalgamation of shadow and light, its body constantly shifting, its voice echoed deep and resonant. "Why have you come here?" the Veilkeeper demanded. "To destroy what keeps your world safe?" Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. The Veilkeeper loomed over the trio, its presence suffocating. Torran raised his sword, its faint glow paling in comparison to the creature's power. "We're here to restore the light," Lyra said, stepping forward. "The veil is destroying Elindra. The heart can end it." The Veilkeeper's laughter shook the ground. "Fools, the veil is not your enemy. It is your salvation. Without it, the true darkness would consume you all." It revealed the truth. The veil was not a curse, but a seal, created to imprison an ancient force of destruction, the Voidborn. Removing the heart would shatter the seal, unleashing chaos upon the world. Torran hesitated, his sword lowering. "Then what are we supposed to do?" "We don't destroy the veil," Ashen said, her voice steady. "We control it. We use the heart to turn the veil into a shield." Lyra's eyes widened. "But the heart's power? It would require—" "Sacrifice," Ashen interrupted. "I know." The Veilkeeper roared, launching an attack. The battle was ferocious. Torran's strikes created openings, Lyra deciphered the heart's mechanisms mid-fight, and Ashen darted through the chaos, her daggers striking precise blows. As the Veilkeeper weakened, Lyra activated the heart. Golden light poured from it, consuming the crystal prison and intertwining with the veil. The shadows screamed as they were pulled into the heart's light, but the cost was great. The heart's energy began to consume Ashen, who had stepped closest to the artifact to protect the others. Her figure glowed, her form dissolving into the radiant shield she had envisioned. "Keep it balanced," Ashen said with a faint smile before disappearing into the light. The veil shimmered, no longer oppressive darkness, but a radiant twilight that spanned the heavens. The shadows were gone, the voidborn sealed, and the heart rested once more. Epilogue. The Twilight Kingdom. The sky over Elindra was forever changed. The oppressive blackness of the veil was gone, replaced by an eternal twilight, a soft, glowing expanse of light and shadow in perfect harmony. The people of Elindra emerged from their hiding places, their faces turning upward for the first time in years. Crops began to grow under the new light, and rivers thawed, their waters running clear once more. The trio's journey had left an indelible mark on the kingdom. Though they had succeeded, the cost weighed heavily on Torran and Lyra. Ashen's legacy. Ashen's name became legend. Though her physical form had been lost, her sacrifice was felt in every corner of Elindra. Stories of the assassin-turned-savior spread, inspiring those who believed themselves irredeemable. Her weapons, left behind at the base of the heart's resting place, became symbols of resilience. Travelers often left offerings, honoring the woman who had given everything to protect the balance. Torran's redemption. Torran returned to the people, his honor restored not by the heart, but by his actions. He took up a new role as a mentor, training the next generation of warriors and protectors. In his teachings, he spoke often of failure, not as something to fear, but as a stepping stone to growth. His presence became a pillar of hope for those who sought redemption. Lyra's Chronicle. Lyra devoted her life to ensuring the story of the veil, the heart, and her companions would never be forgotten. She wrote tirelessly, documenting every detail of their journey and the truths they uncovered. Her work became the Chronicles of Twilight, a text studied by scholars and adventurers alike. Lyra herself became a revered figure in Elindra, her wisdom sought by rulers and commoners. Yet despite her success, she often returned to the resting place of the heart, speaking softly to the twilight sky as though Ashen could hear her. Elindra thrived under the new light, its people learning to embrace the balance between shadow and radiance. Though the trio had parted ways, their bond endured, their legacy proving that even in the darkest night, hope could still shine. The eternal veil.